Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start our program. Sergeant Arms. Please escort Mr. William Zune, GOVC Chaplain, and Mr. Eric LaMarche to the podium.
What are we doing first?
Oh, good. Everybody's standing. I ask that everyone remain standing until after the moment of silence. Sergeant Arms. Please command the colors, the color guard to present the colors. Chaplain, please lead us in the opening prayer.
Ooh, all right. Look at that, yeah. Heavenly Father, we ask for your blessings on all those who served their country in the armed forces. We ask for healing for the veterans who have been wounded in conflicts around the globe. We pray especially for the young men and women who are, bear with me a minute here, who are coming home from Iraq with injured bodies and traumatized spirits. Bring solace to them, O Lord. May we pray for them when they cannot pray. We ask for an end to the wars and the dawning of a new era of peace as a way to honor all the veterans of past wars. Have mercy on all veterans from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq. Bring peace to their hearts and peace to the regions they fought in. In dying for our country, they passed on to us a legacy of liberty, unity, pride, honor, faith, equality, and freedom. So I say to those who lost their life, we remember. We do remember. And to you I say, on this Memorial Day, pause and take a moment to remember those who paid the supreme sacrifice. Amen.
Sergeant Arms. Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I face the flag and salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. LaMarche, lead us in the national anthem, please.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
At this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence and remember all those who have died for our freedom and the 12,004 that were killed, wounded, or captured on June 6th, 1944, on D-Day, 75 years ago. Thank you. We have recently, the council is in their 100th year of service to the community and our fellow veterans. And to commemorate our centennial, new beginnings, rebirth, and the future, the council has voted to have a new logo, which I present today on the screen. For the 2019-2020 council year, the logo will have a commemorative banner underneath it. The Greater Lowell Veterans Council looks forward to the coming year and hosting all of you and many, many more at our observances that we hold. Introductions. GOVC officers, trustees, and appointees. Myself, Matt Elkins, Commander. Steve Shadow Fitzgerald, Vice Commander. Dick Dusham, Quartermaster. William Zune, Chaplain. Joe Zangri, Judge Advocate. Ron Roy, Sergeant at Arms. Richard Howe, Historian. Tom Shannon, Adjutant, which could not be with us today. Peter Manning, Trustee. Joe Maranza, Trustee. Outgoing Trustee Jerry Dunn. And incoming Trustee Jeff Hollett. Mike Maker Peasley, GOVC LMA Trustee. And a little footnote for our chaplain and our sergeant at arms, they have been serving the council for over 20 years. Our member organizations, and I'm happy to say we've grown. The American Legion, 87 Lowell, 212 Chelmsford, 221 Bedford, 247 Tingsboro, 259 Tewksbury, 313 North Chelmsford, 315 Dracut, Armenian American Veterans, Disabled American Veterans, 25 Lowell, and 47 Chelmsford, the Franco-American War Veterans, Greek American Veterans, the Heart of the Traveling Soldier, the Jewish War Veterans, Korean War Veterans, Marine Corps League, Merrimack Valley Vietnam Veterans, the Mission Continues, the Nam Knights of Merrimack Valley, Polish American Veterans, Portuguese American Veterans, the U.S. Submarine Veterans Incorporated, VFW Post 662 Lowell, and 9307 Dracut. We have with us today, representing the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Representative David Nagel. For the city, Mayor William Samaras. Councilor Rita Mercier. The organizations we have with us today, we have Youth Build. Where are they? Oh, over there. And anyone that doesn't know about them, they do great work with the youth of the community, rehabbing buildings and actually building homes and stuff. So look them up, get involved. The Lowell Veterans Commission. Patton Memorial Society. Our color guard was provided by the Boy Scouts of America, Troop 25. Our buglers today will be Colonel Sam Polton, echoed by Joe Zangri. Firing team will consist of the Marine Corps League, Merrimack Valley Vietnam Veterans, American Legion Dracut, and the Franco-American War Veterans. Our speakers today will be Richard Howe Jr., Jeff Hollett, Rebecca Spencer, and Alma Hart. Singers, Eric Lamache, VSO Lowell. The catering was provided by Primo Pizza Restaurant in Dracut. Some miscellaneous acknowledgements that I would like to make, but definitely not, less than, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do. Pete Lally, the president of the Lowell Management Group that manages the Lowell Memorial Auditorium for us. He's back there in the shadows. Pete, stand up. Steve Pertell and the LMA staff that help us take care of the building and do all the AV work for us. Lowell Telecommunications, Dracut Access TV, the Greater Lowell the GLVC Volunteer Corps, which is celebrating their second year in service for the council. And please, no applause for the next two. The POW MIA National League of Families and the Ghost Star families. And if I missed anyone, please let me know. Sergeant Arms. Please escort Cadet First Lieutenant William Carrera of Lowell High Air Force JROTC and Miss C. Ham, is that correct? Tobaleka of Project 315 to the podium. They will be reading a governor's proclamation in recognition of veterans of Memorial Day. Lieutenant. There you go.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a proclamation. Whereas, while the nation was still recovering from the honors of the Civil War, people in cities and towns across the country gathered to honor those in Union and Confederate soldiers who had given their lives celebrating the first Declaration Day. And whereas, after the World War I, the nation came together again to honor those who had fallen in service of their country, renamed Memorial Day. The last Monday in May is when people honor the memory of all men and women who fought and died in the American war and conflict. And whereas throughout the city's history, thousands of Massachusetts citizens have fought in wars and conflict to defend our safety and our ways of life. And whereas their legacy and patriotism and donation to the city is an inspiration to all those Americans. And
whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who gave their lives so that their sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Now, therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim May 27, 2019 to be Memorial Day, and urge all citizens of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Given at the Executive Chamber in Boston, this first day of May in the year 2019, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 242nd. Signed, Governor Charles D. Baker.
Sergeant at Arms. Please escort Ms. Barbara Gibbs of the POW MIA National League of Families to the podium.
Hi, I'm Barbara Zibb, and I am the Massachusetts Coordinator and the Northeast Region Co-Coordinator for the National League of Families, POW, and MIAs. I would like to announce that this year is the National League of Families' 50th year anniversary as an organization, and I am so proud that we are still all together. The list that I have is from December 6th through May 22nd. World War II, there has been 45. The Oklahoma has been 145. Cold War is still 126. Korea, they've identified 22. The total is now 7742. Vietnam, they have 1589. They have recovered 2 civilians in Laos, Air America. They've recovered 10 from Germany, World War II, 1 from Belgium. The list for World War II combined is 72,643. JPAC out of Hawaii have reached their goal that they have recovered and identified over 200 for this year so far of remains of MIAs. Desert Storm is 2. Iraqi Freedom from 2003 to 2010 is 3 still not identified. Operation El Dorado, 1986 over Libya, have not been identified. And that's where the totals now stand as from, like I said, December 6th through May 22nd. So there is a great push on the identification system right now. They have partnered with Ancestry.com, trying to locate families of MIAs that they do not have any DNA on file. So they're trying their best to bring everybody home. Thank you.
And Sergeant at Arms, if you could please escort Mr. and Mrs. Hart from the Gold Star families to place the wreath. They're over here, Sergeant.
Well, good morning, everyone. For the past few years when we've gathered here, we've spoken often about World War I, which is fitting since we were observing the centennial of that conflict. But that war ended on November 11th, 1918, and so that would have made Memorial Day 1919 the first of the post-war period. So today it seems appropriate to look back 100 years ago to see what Lowell was like on Memorial Day 1919. Despite World War I just having ended, more than 5,000 men from Lowell having served in the military and at least 150 dying during that war, Memorial Day 1919 still focused on the Civil War. There were 55 Civil War veterans still alive and participating on Memorial Day 1919, which is impressive because the youngest of them would have been at least 75 years old. Those veterans were known as GAR men, with GAR standing for the Grand Army of the Republic, which was the veterans organization for all Union Civil War veterans. Memorial Day began for the GAR men with church services at different churches around the city at 8:30 in the morning. From there, they dispersed to the various cemeteries where they laid flowers on the graves of their departed colleagues. In the early afternoon, they returned to their headquarters, which was known as Memorial Hall. We know it today as the Pollard Memorial Library, but it was built in 1898 to honor the Civil War veterans from Lowell, and it was called Memorial Hall at the time. There they'd have lunch and they'd socialize. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they'd head to the South Common for the highlight of Memorial Day, which was a big parade. Besides the GAR contingent, there were groups from the Spanish-American War veterans. There were different military organizations, paramilitary organizations, bands, community groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. And in 1919, there were at least 175 veterans of the First World War who marched in that parade. Now, if you were born in 1950 or earlier, the geography of the parade will be easier for you to comprehend because some of the city's roads have changed. But the parade would leave the South Common on the Thorndike Street side at 4 o'clock. It would proceed up Thorndike Street to Middlesex Street, where the Lord Overpass is today, but that wasn't there then. It would go down Middlesex Street to the Rialto Building, Central Street, take a left, go up to Merrimack, take a left on Merrimack, and continue up Merrimack to the Ladden Whitney Monument. There it would pause, and all the veterans organizations would fall into formation around the triangular grassy area that forms the Ladden Whitney Monument. There they would say a prayer, an honor guard would fire a salute, and taps would be played in honor of Luther Ladd and Addison Whitney, the first two men killed by hostile fire during the American Civil War, who were not only honored by that monument, but who were actually buried there beside it. From there, the parade would continue up Moody Street, which, if you're from the younger generation, means it went between the JFK Civic Center and City Hall. That used to be a road that went straight through. When it reached Cabot Street, it would take a left. When it got to Merrimack, it would take another left, and it would come back down by City Hall, where a reviewing stand would be set up on the Cardinal O'Connell Parkway side of City Hall. There, elected officials would stand and honor the veterans who passed and review the parade. And in that spirit, I'd also like to thank Representatives Nangle, Dave Nangle, Mayor Bill Samaras, and City Councilor Rita Mercier for continuing that tradition and being here today. The parade would then break up at Dutton Street. Now, in the 20 years between the end of World War I and the start of World War II, the Civil War veterans gradually faded from the scene, and World War I veterans more and more took the lead in the Memorial Day services and parade, mostly in the form of the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars, both of which came to prominence during those years. Now, some of the rituals adopted during that time period are familiar to us. After this building was constructed in 1922, on the Sunday before Memorial Day, all of the veterans groups in the city would gather here, just as we have today, for joint memorial service. There was always the water ceremony, where the veterans groups would go out to the plaza outside this building, onto the banks of the Concord River, and cast flowers into the water, while a rifle salute was fired and taps was played. One of the early speakers at one of those events said it was particularly important to honor those who were lost at sea because they were always deprived of having a grave. No one could ever go to the place where they were buried and lay flowers or remember them. And that's why we continue the water service today. The Ladden Whitney Monument is central today. We were just up there earlier this morning reciting the names of our departed veterans from the past year. And because an Army travels on its stomach, there was a luncheon included after the ceremonies, just as we do these days. Now, regrettably, this great parade, which in 1939 consisted of 7,500 marchers and more than 75,000 spectators, is no more. Now, we're all disappointed about that. We should not grow discouraged. As General John Logan, the first commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, said in his order of May 5th, 1868, which established Memorial Day as we know it now, he said, "In this observance, no form or ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit." More importantly, General Logan added, "If others grow dull and other hands slack and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remain in us." So in the spirit of General Logan, thank you all for being here today to fulfill the solemn trust of remembering and honoring those who gave their lives in service of the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Sergeant Arms. Please escort Mr. Jeffrey Hillette to the podium.
Thank you all for coming out today. Thank you for all the civic organizations, everybody all our veterans, all the community organizations, all our elected officials for being here today. I truly, truly am honored to be part of this ceremony today. I took over as the VSO for the town of Dracut in October of last year. I became a trustee for the Greater Lowell Veterans Council just recently in our last meeting. I've pondered for many weeks over what I would speak about today. And I have somewhat of a prepared speech back at my office on the computer that I didn't print out and bring with me. But there's a reason for that. I got up early this morning and I started putting on my uniform. And I reached into my pocket and I found this memorial card. And it's the memorial card of a dear close friend of mine. His name is Arthur Salkins. He's from the Vietnam era. So I decided that's what I was going to tell you today. The reason why I'm here today is that I'm remembering someone. The reason why we memorialize our veterans is because we are close to them. We are close to each other as veterans, and we are close to those that have departed. Whether they departed in harm's way in combat or whether they departed after they came home. Such was Arthur's story. I want to tell you a few little facts about Arthur. Arthur was the commander of the Franco-American VFW down in Lynn, Mass, where I live. I met Arthur shortly after I came home from Iraq for my second tour. I was just wanting to do something, and I started volunteering with the VSO down in Lynn, and I started working on the Memorial Day Parade. And I not only met Arthur, but I met the Veterans Lowell Council and a great number of veterans that were really committed to what Memorial Day is all about. And a lot of times, and I want to thank Howard for mentioning that, you know, there's a reason why we have parades and why Memorial Day has somewhat evolved over the years. Well, Arthur, he had an ailment from his time while he was in the service in Vietnam. First, it started out as emphysema, and later on grew into lung cancer. He died 6 months before the VA made his condition a presumptive condition for Air Force members who served during Vietnam. But he was part of that fight, even though he never got that recognition of being service-connected. Arthur came home and not only served at the post, but he also became involved with the Veterans Council, and he was personally responsible for designing the war memorial dedicated to women that stands in Lynn. And there's only about 5 or 6 memorials across our state that are specifically dedicated to women. And there is one here in Lowell as well, and I'm really proud to see that. Arthur also was responsible for the group that brought the Healing Wall to our parade fields in Lynn. But even more importantly and astonishingly, he was on the original commission that designed the wall down in Washington, D.C. He was dedicated. He fought for veterans. He fought for veterans' families. And he fought for us, every one of us in this room, whether he knew you or not. Because that's what we do, veterans. That's what veterans do. So I wanted to memorialize Arthur today because he became my mentor. Arthur is probably the #1 person in my life that led me to my position here in Drake as the VSO. And I truly, truly am honored to have this position and to be with you here today. Thank you.
Sergeant Arms. Please escort Ms. Rebecca Spencer to the podium.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the individuals who spoke before me. And I must say, as I was sitting there listening to their words, I was hoping that my speech wasn't going to be taken up in overlap by the items that they were speaking to. It's an interesting thing to be sitting there thinking of on this day. But this day is a day that has room for everything that we have to say, and I thank you all for your words. I'm going to start by saying on May 5th, 1868, General John A. Logan, a U.S. Senator from Illinois, leader of an organization for Northern Civil War veterans, petitioned for a nationwide Day of Remembrance. The 30th of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land, he proclaimed. The date of Decoration Day, as he named what we now call Memorial Day, was chosen because it wasn't the anniversary of any particular battle. It was not the anniversary of any particular battle. On this day that we gather to pay our respects and hold in our collective memories the losses we have personally endured as friends, family members, and community members, I'm asking a particularly difficult action from everyone here today. That you see each person that comes before you as the uniquely individual person that they are. Every experience that molded them into who they are today. That you somehow find the time to hear and see the inflections in tone, the body language, the haunted or distanced look, that someone who is suffering cannot hide completely when asked how they are. I'm doing great. I'm good. How are you? Are not often authentic reflections of how a person is doing. And some people do better at masking the issues that they're struggling with. And with this, I'd like to move into speaking on grief. Grief, like any raw human emotion, is challenging in that it is different for every single person experiencing it. To some, it looks like a gathering of friends, throwing back a few cold ones, or a lot of them, and celebrating the loss of a friend and comrade. To others, it's going quietly home and being thankful for the brief, and it's always too brief, span of time that one has been blessed to have a particular person in their life. And there are the brutal experiences of loss that were so violent and filled with sounds and smells. One never forgets the anxiety, the anger that settles in over the senselessness of what's happened around them. And it is all for this great country, and it is such an honor, and it was a duty I was so proud to take on. This is going to sound a little counterintuitive, but in this grief experience, maybe we shouldn't be trying to make people feel better. If you're standing beside someone who's crying and you give them a hug, ask if they want a hug, and speak with them or allow them to speak in the hope of making them just feel a little bit better. When we all do this, and I've been guilty of it myself, I often feel like it's a failure on my part if when I see them again, I can tell that they're still grieving. It's okay to sit with that feeling of discomfort at not being able to fix something, because not everything can be fixed. And that's okay. I also am now going a little bit off of what I had originally written. Yesterday at Hanscom Air Force Base, I ran into a retired sergeant major that I knew in my time in service, and he asked how I was doing. And I'm learning how to give a more honest, authentic response. I said this day is a struggle for me. For a few days leading up to Memorial Day and a few days afterwards, it's a real struggle. And I asked how he was doing. And he said, I can't go and speak at an event like you're going to speak at tomorrow. He said, it's still too much for me. And this is 12 years after he retired from service. Yesterday, I also met a woman at Fox Hill Cemetery. I was there with Joe Zangri, laying flags at gravesides. And as he and I were driving over the top of a hill, I saw a woman standing alone in a field over a grave. And she was hunched over and alone. And when Joe stopped the car, I said, I'll be right back. And I went over to her. And I found out that yesterday, she was standing over 3 graves. One of them was her son, who followed his father's footsteps in the Army and became an MP and passed away far too young. And her husband, who passed away 22 years ago. And for the past 22 years, she drives 3 hours to stand over the graves of her son and her husband and his first wife, who she was friends with. That this is not the anniversary of any particular battle. It's the battles that we carry with us still individually as we're here. It's the memory of the people we served with. And when I ask you to hold each individual that comes before you, and I say that I know it's a difficult thing, it's difficult because we live in patterns. Patterns are comfortable. And when you have a lot of people coming before you who are presenting their struggles and their grief in different ways, it's really hard to know what to do. I just hold or ask that you hold each person authentically in and of themselves and hear what it is that they're saying they need in any particular moment. Because this is Memorial Day, and this is a day that we remember the people that, again, that we've lost and served by and who served for us way before we were even born. I want to thank Dawn Marie and her husband, Bill, who text me every few days. They're a member of the Greater Lowell Veterans Council, and they were some of the first people to see that I was full of shit when I was saying I was okay. They text me every few days to check in, and they don't listen to me when I say I'm great. Joe Zangri, my commander's aide, and my children, Sarah and Adam, who couldn't be here today, and my dad, a Vietnam veteran, who I'm in awe of him, and somehow he has found it in him to be in awe of me. And I just want to read a short list of dates for the days that I lost soldiers in Iraq. December 6th, February 3rd, she had a daughter who was 3 years old. February 9, February 22nd, March 2nd, March 27, April 20th, 2. A week ago, 1. Even though I'm not still in service, you always serve together. And I found out on Facebook, because we're connected in new ways today. And I want to speak also to spring of 2008, and I don't remember the day because I was recovering from injury myself at the Combat Support Hospital in Baghdad. That day, it was 8 individuals, and I was able to sit beside the bedside of one of my female soldiers before she was medevaced to Germany. Just before I close today, the gentleman before me spoke to women in service. Over my right shoulder, I wear a Joint Meritorious Unit Award. Section A, during action in combat with an armed enemy of the United States, is why I wear this. And on Memorial Day, I remember every single one of these people, but on the dates that I lost them, it takes approximately 15 minutes for the birthday candle that I light for them and have a few sips of a really good bourbon. I remember them on those days also, and I thank you all for being here today to continue remembering our incredible veterans. Thank you.
Sergeant Arms. Could you please escort the representatives of the Lowell Veterans Commission to the podium?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jay Gaffney from the Lowell Veterans Commission. I'm here with my commission colleague, Andith Van. The Veterans Council has done a great job this past 100 years recognizing veterans. That is part of the Commission's mission as well. One of the ways we do it is through a Veteran of the Month award program. This award goes to veterans who deserve to be recognized for their service to the country and also for their service to the community of Lowell. In order to be eligible for this award, you do not have to be a resident of Lowell, but the service that you render does have to benefit the city of Lowell. If any of you know of anyone who would be eligible for this award, please consider nominating such a person. One of the other issues relates to the membership of the commission. Our membership, this commission has been in existence for several years, and we are now facing a number of expiring terms and some resignation. So like the Marine Corps, the Veterans Commission is looking for a few good men and women. If any of you or know anyone who would like to participate in the Commission's mission of honoring and advocating for veterans and acting as a advisory council to the city manager, please consider applying for the commission or recommending to someone you know who would be interested applying for the commission. If you would like to nominate someone for the award or would like to apply for the commission, you could contact our Veteran Service Officer, Eric LaMarche, who rendered that a powerful version of our national anthem some time ago. So we hope that some deserving names will reach Eric. You could just look up under the City of Lowell Veteran Service Officer, Veteran Service Officer, you'll find him. Thank you very much for your attention. Anything else you want to add to it?
I have to bring this mic really low for me. Okay. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Lowell Veterans Commission, I would like to thank you and welcome you here today as we honor our fallen. Jay, my comrade here, was good enough to kind of voluntold me to come up here this morning. So I don't have anything prepared. However, as I sat listening intently to the speakers before me, I thought, what a dishonor it would be that if I was given the opportunity to speak before you today, that I didn't take it up to honor our veterans. For those that know me, I too am a veteran, and the pride and the honor runs deeply through me for our fallen, those serving today, and those that will continue to serve way beyond me. It's fitting that we have this ceremony held here. It is, in fact, the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, and so I invite you, those that have not been here before, to take a moment after the ceremony to observe the names that are adorned on the walls of the auditorium and also on the outside walls of the auditorium. I also would like to take the opportunity to deeply thank Matt, the Greater Lowell Veterans Council, all of its members for their time, their service, and their dedication to continuing to honor and serve our veterans and holding such events such as this. Ma'am, you spoke so eloquently and so beautifully, and so I make no attempt to follow up with an even more powerful speech. It was a tearjerker, to say the very least, because I, too, know of those that have fallen. And today and every year, I take a moment to recognize and to honor those we may never meet, those that we have met, and those that we will continue to miss for a very long time. The grieving process is different, and it never gets easier, I don't think. But I ask today and every day, in some kind of way, somehow, that we all remind ourselves that we shall never forget, and that days such as today, events such as this one, that we take the time and continue to honor those that serve, those that have fallen, and that we as parents, as adults, stress to our younger generations how important it is that we continue to do that. I thank you again, and it is such a great honor. Thank you.
Sergeant Arms. Please escort Ms. Alma Hart to the podium. Ms. Hart and her husband are Gold Star families.
Thank you so much for inviting Brian and I here today. Memorial Day is very important to our families. This weekend, we celebrate Memorial Day. We celebrate it. On this one day a year, we Americans set aside politics and commerce and take time to reflect on all that was lost by the brave men and women who died in the service of our country. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have a picnic or a backyard barbecue. The best memories don't spring from ceremonies, but from the simple joys of life. Memorial Day began with ordinary people decorating the graves of the war dead. Here in Massachusetts, we've begun a new tradition. This week, a group of volunteers planted 37,000 flags on Boston Common to honor each of our fallen from the Revolutionary War to today. If you haven't had a chance to see them in person, take a minute to look at the pictures on the web. Breathtaking and heartrending. Each flag represents a life well lived. In June 1919, Stars and Stripes newspaper printed an anonymous letter from a young man who attended President Wilson's address to the 7,000 soldiers in the French cemetery Cersens on Memorial Day. The young man visited the grave of his best friend. He wrote that he found there a plainly dressed old mother of France, and she was weeping. Monsieur, his grave was given to me to keep green. His grave and the grave of the other boy over there. The women of the town have been tending the graves, and these two I have taken. My husband works hard, and of money there is not that much. But I brought the little plants and the flowers and the vines, the green things that should hide the ugly earth. I planted them, and they all grew. And as I tended them, I prayed for him, for I thought of him as my own Jean, who died 3 years ago and is buried where I do not know. I prayed for his mother, who must be thinking as I have been thinking. But monsieur, when I came today, the vines were gone, the plants were gone, all gone. It meant so much to me that I weep, even though the flags, they are beautiful, and though the flowers other hands have laid there are beautiful too. But they are not my flowers, and my vines are gone. Monsieur, how old was he, and what did he look like? They spoke about their lost loved ones, and she did not weep again. The grave, she said, would always be watched. Brian and I buried our son John on the green slope of Section 60 in Arlington National Cemetery. We think of him every day. He had his daddy's blue eyes and gentle spirit. He shared his parents' love of history and always wanted to be a soldier. He had a slight stutter as a young child. Sometimes his friends had to defend him for it on the playground. He learned the right lesson from that and took time to protect the smaller kids from the bullies. The summer before starting high school, he was excited for junior ROTC training at Fort Devens because it was a week on a real Army base, doing real Army training and eating real Army food. The 9/11 attacks were exactly 1 week before his 18th birthday. His ROTC colonel called all the senior ROTC boys into his office and made each one swear not to enlist until he graduated. John spent that spring with a loaded book pack, running the length of the Minuteman Trail, preparing for basic training. October 18th, 2003, PFC John D. Hart, who had already received a Bronze Star for bravery, was a machine gunner in the rear Humvee of a convoy ambushed on a dark road in northern Iraq. They had been chronically short of equipment, hot swapping body armor plates with other soldiers as they left base, and sharing night vision goggles within their team. Their canvas Humvee had no armor. The driver and the lieutenant had already been shot. My fair-haired, broad-shouldered boy stood up and fired his weapon to defend his injured buddies. When he ran out of bullets, he was shot and killed. I think dying in battle has always been too romanticized. There are legends from ancient Rome right up through the Napoleonic Wars that red poppies sprang forth on battlefields, proving that heroic blood never dies. It appears magical, but is actually the result of the soil being churned up, releasing the dormant seeds. The gunpowder used in modern warfare makes the soil acidic. the perfect condition for poppies to spring up everywhere. In 1914, John McCrae, a Canadian medical officer serving in France, described them humbly in a poem in his dispatch book. You know the words. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row. Today, with cameras and satellites, it is easy for the families at home to see the reality of the tragedies that battle brings about. We have an understanding of the trials faced by our soldiers and Marines. We won't allow the poets to pretty it up for us. The families of the fallen have little in common socially, politically, or religiously. We do share the fierce pride in our loved ones for serving our country, the dignity of hanging our Gold Star banners in our front windows, and the bravery to speak up for the needs of other military families. We comfort each other by sharing the loss, accepting that the death of anyone from anything but advanced old age is a heartrending tragedy. We know what is important, to remember the beauty of a child's smile and a teenager's dreams. Today, the poppy seeds are lying dormant around most of the world, but for how long? As we contemplate what new military actions may occur in the near future, we must consider the cost of the previous wars. As we reflect on what has actually been accomplished by the current Mideast conflicts, let us remember the burden borne by those few who volunteered, the ones sent on multiple tours to Iraq and Afghanistan. The courage to act on their behalf is the final tribute to those who came before us, and a lasting legacy for those who comes after us. Theodore Roosevelt, in his Citizen of the Republic speech at the Sorbonne in Paris, April 23rd, 1910, said this: "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again. Because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat." Thank you.
Sergeant Arms. Could you please escort the following? Mr. William Zune, Mr. Jeffrey Hollett, Mr. Jesse Allen, and Mr. William Janis. Thank you. I know it's unusual for me to call up so many people at one time, but for some reason, recently, many people have been wanting to give donations to the council. And it is my honor to preside over these ceremonies, and there are actually 3 flags being presented to the council today. Where are you? Bill, would you like to mention? Okay. Ms. Jensen came across an original design for the Don't Tread on Me flag. I did a little bit of research on it, and from my understanding, this flag was one of the original American flags before the flag that we all know as the flag of the Union became the official flag, and it's an honor to have this fly with the rest of them. Thank you. We have many veterans that walk among us, and when we're in our plain clothes, we don't know who or what they did. I have an honor to serve with such great men and women in the council. Unbeknownst to me until just recently, a gentleman that I've known for, a couple years now, and also a volunteer for the Volunteer Corps. Through conversation, I found out that he was both 82nd Airborne and Special Forces. Mr. Jesse Allen is dedicating an 82nd Airborne and Special Forces flag to the council. Receiving the 82nd Airborne flag is a fellow 82nd Airborne, Mr. Zune. Zunas.
Thank you.
Billy.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, we don't have any other Special Forces with us, but speaking with my good friend Jeff here, the other day I just found out that he served, or trained with, at the very least, the Republic of Korea's Rangers unit. Now, if anybody understands anything about the Korean military, their standard military pretty much equates to our Special Forces. So I'd asked him to take the honor of receiving the Special Forces flag on behalf of the council. Thank you, gentlemen. Please be seated. Sergeant Arms. If you please escort Mr. Eric Lamarche to the podium. If you could please lead us in God Bless America.
I'm not supposed to speak right now, but I wanted to make one comment. I served in the United States, in the Navy, aboard the USS Saipan from 1990 to 93. I worked my 20-hour shifts like everyone else did. We transported the Marines over to the Persian Gulf. We dropped them off, and I had no idea what they were going through. I had no idea what my grandfather went through in World War II. I didn't lose any brothers or sisters. Miss Spencer, your speech really touched me. And may I give you a hug? And I just want everyone to know that I am there, although I do not know what you or some of you have ever gone through. I am there to listen to, I will never have the right words to say, but I am there to listen for anybody here and anywhere listening on the TV. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God sweet home.
If I could please have my detail assemble in the back. And could we have the lights all the way down, please? When a soldier dies in battle, they're first remembered and memorialized by their brothers and sisters in the field by a soldier's cross. Then they are transported home by military transport plane, call sign Angel Flight, receiving aerial honors. They are then transported by a civilian plane to their families. Their family then lays them to rest. The presentation you're about to see tells the story. They may be gone, but they are not forgotten. Detail. Detail. Execute ceremony. The modern incarnation of the soldier's cross, boots and rifle, headgear, dog tags were used at the beginning of the Gulf War in 1990. It is a symbol of loss, mourning, and closure of the brothers and sisters they left behind. The rifle. Facing downward means a soldier was killed in action. Rifle with bayonet stuck in the ground tells the soldier went down fighting. The boots, worn and dry, show the soldiers' march of the shows their final march in their last battle. Dog tags and helmet mean the soldier will never be forgotten. We may now present the American flag, folded as a symbol of grateful appreciation and distinguished service. If you could now direct your attention to the screen behind me.
Andrews Tower, good morning. Angel Flight Bravo 02, ready for takeoff. Angel Flight Bravo 02, you're number 1 for takeoff. Runway 25, get them home, boys.
That's already true.
Tower set.
All I ever wanted to do was fly, leave this world and live in the sky. I let the C-130 out of Fort Worth town. I go up some days I don't wanna come down. Well, I fly that plane, call the Angel Flight. Come on, brother, you're with me tonight. between heaven and earth. You're never alone on the angel flight. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. I love my family and I love this land, but tonight this flight's for another man. We do what we do 'cause we heard the call. Some gave a little, but he gave it all. I'll fly that plane called the Angel Flight. And come on, brother, you're with me tonight. Brother, you're with me tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone on the Angel Flight. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home.
Good afternoon, Angel Flight Bravo 02, checking in level 290. We got a hero on board tonight. Roger, radar contact, Godspeed.
Well, the cockpit's quiet and the stars are bright. Feels kinda like church in here tonight. It don't matter where we touch down. On the Angel Flight, it's sacred ground. When I fly that plane called the Angel Flight, got a hero riding with us tonight. Riding with us tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone on the Angel Flight. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home.
Carswell Tower, good afternoon, Angel Flight Bravo 02, security on 5 miles. Angel Flight Bravo 02, you're number 1 for landing. Welcome home.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
I came by today to see you. Oh, I had to let you know. If I knew the last time that I held you was the last time, I'd have held you and never let go. Oh, it's kept me awake nights wondering. I lie in the dark just asking why. I've always been told you won't be called home until it's your time. I guess heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through. When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is that heaven was needing a hero like you. I remember the last time I saw you. Oh, you held your head up proud. I laughed inside when I saw how you were standing out in the crowd. You're such a part of who I am. Now that part will just be void. No matter how much I need you now, heaven needed you more, 'cause heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for 'cause heaven was needing a hero, and that's you.
Lights, please. Sergeant Arms. Please escort William Zunas, GLVC chaplain, to the podium, please. All rise.
Pretty tough to follow such an emotional series of videos, but I guess it really suffices the reason why we are all here today. Let us bow our heads and ask Almighty God to give us the courage of our convictions and always remember those who seek our help. Let us always remember those who have fought and are fighting for freedom, for those who have given the supreme sacrifice. Lord, hold our troops in your loving hands. Protect them as they protect us. Bless them and their families for the selfless acts they perform for us in our time of need. Let us be mindful of our KIAs, MIAs, and all POWs serving around the globe. Amen. Sorry for that.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to go outside to the canal for our water ceremony. The throwing of the flowers into the water is an able tradition that is in memory of those who died. We will also be firing a salute and playing taps. Never forget that our freedom is not free. It is paid for by blood, sweat, tears, sacrifice, and lives. Thank you.